Just saw the muscles in his chest. I can see him hanging. Look at those big boys. What's up YouTube? Welcome to my first talking head video. So today I just want to talk about a lens that I used to capture the footage that you just watched. So the lens that I've just picked up recently is the 70-200 f4G lens. And I just want to talk about the reasons why I picked this lens up in particular, why I got it over the 2.8 version and even the Mark II version that was just released I think earlier this year or late last year. But there are benefits to having this lens, even at its age, over those two lenses, and one of which is the price. I sold my Sony a7 III to get this lens, and what I got for that, which unfortunately wasn't much, I paid for this lens. So it was like for like. So it wasn't any out-of-pocket expenses, which was nice. But one of the big things, the biggest difference that this lens has over those two, the 2.8 and the Mark II version, is this is a completely internal zooming lens. Now that barrel doesn't extend at all. And that's a big thing for me for two reasons. Because the first reason is, unfortunately, for whatever reason, I'm very clumsy when it comes to carrying camera gear. I think I move differently. So there have been two occasions where I've slipped over with a camera in my hand, and both times I had a zoom lens on that camera. So my 24-105 G lens, it's not with me because it's in the shop. It got pulled apart to make sure that there was nothing wrong internally with the OSS, the autofocus, or the zoom capabilities. Fortunately, there wasn't anything wrong with it, but just after that, my bruised ego, and I was always anxious about having to zoom the lens back in before I set off because I am clumsy. But having that this lens is an internal zoom was one of the biggest determining factors of why I got this lens. Now I was umming and ahhing and trying to determine whether I got this one or the 18-105 f4G, which would have paired very nicely with my FX30, which I'm shooting this talking head video on. And that is very compact lens, but it's only an APS-C lens, and it would have been great for my FX30, but it wouldn't have suited my ZV-E1 or my A7CR. So that was another reason why I leant more towards getting this lens. And as you can see from my first 2 YouTube videos, when I was in Bali, I got videos at the Monkey Forest and also got video at the Bali Zoo. And today's footage was all wildlife based essentially on this camera and this lens setup. I'm getting more into wildlife videography, so I wanted to extend my reach by getting a 70-200, and this f4 version, look, yes, it's not as bright as the 2.8 version, but it's also not as heavy. This lens, even with the collar on, is only 900 grams because it is at constant f4 aperture. It's not great in low light. I tested that out a little bit later tonight before the sun completely set. And look, it's not great, especially on the FX30 because it's only got a dual native ISO of 640 and 2500, or is it 800 and 2500? But being that I have the ZV-E1, which has a dual native ISO of the 640 and the 12800, this f4 will be completely fine. Because in the footage that I just put together today before I started this talking head stuff, is I wasn't able to put a ND filter on this lens. So you'll probably notice that I was shooting at apertures ridiculous, like 16 at times, and I never like to do that, but I just ordered a step up ring so I can put my ND filter on this lens, and once that arrives I'll be able to put the ND filter on and shoot it wide open. But I didn't really shoot it wide open today at all, and it shows. The footage that I captured today wasn't the best, but I really wanted to put something together to show you what this lens is capable of, its limitations, and what it looks like. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to shoot, like I said, wide open at f4, but you get an idea of what this lens looks like, especially with the compression that it has at 200mm. And I did try and shoot at 200mm quite a lot today, especially in the footage that I included. There were some video footage that I wasn't able to include due to some limitations of this lens, which I will get into. And those limitations are, well, the first thing I did notice, and this is something that I did research on before I picked up this lens, and there were a few people saying that they weren't a big fan of the optical steady shot that is within this lens. Now, Ken Rockwell on his website said that this lens is rated for 4 stops of optical steady shot, but a lot of people are saying it's probably closer to 2 stops of optical steady shot, which, you know, it should be enough. And I think today I worked out there was probably a bit of user error the way I was holding the camera. Sometimes I'll probably hold it too tight with the strap and it'll get a bit of tension and it would have that jiggle there. But the optical steady shot did work, and it did work great. There were just times I noticed it didn't allow me to use that footage, even when I was using warp stabilizer in Premiere Pro. And I'm going to include a screen recording of the settings I used on all of the footage that I included in this video. I only used 7% on the warp stabilizer, and I just used particular settings within just to make sure that it enhanced its stabilization. But there were times, and you probably noticed in the footage, where it was a bit warpy and a bit jello-y, and wasn't the biggest fan. But hey, I'm going to leave that in there because I'm still learning, I'm still growing in this videography journey, and I'm going to, you know, learn, and maybe you can comment down below and let me know how to better stabilize in the future. But so like I said, the optical steady shot wasn't the biggest fan of, but again, I think it's just something I need to get used to, using a longer telephoto zoom lens and using on the FX30 and the limitations that has. And maybe I might get a monopod just if I am shooting wildlife, just so I can stabilize that footage more, especially when I'm panning. So that's something I'll consider. Another thing I noticed I wasn't the biggest fan of, I think it's probably to do with the fact that this lens itself is 11 years old. This lens was released in 2013, so it's, you know, it's quite old, specifically using on a new mirrorless system like the FX30, and even using it on the ZV-E1, which I'm yet to do. So I might find that the autofocus performs differently on a camera that has AI autofocus and has a better low light capability, because when I found that it wasn't doing the best autofocus was when it was lower light, and I didn't have the ability to use the lens wide open because of the lack of ND filter. So You know, there were times today that I found that it wasn't the best, but again, I think I'm getting used to the FX30's autofocus system as opposed to my ZV-E1, and getting used to, you know, an 11-year-old lens. There are going to be limitations, but by no means is this lens unusable with autofocus or optical steady shot. I just found that it was limited. And again, I'm well aware that it's probably user error. So very happy with this lens. The price that I got it for, its build quality, being made mostly out of metal, that it is a G lens. I just think, you know, there are things that I'm going to get used to using a longer lens and getting used to using it chasing wildlife, especially little blue fairy wrens, which are the size of my thumb and they move so quick. So they are hard to track, but I hope you like this content. I hope you like the footage that I included in this video before. Comment down below if you did like it, like and subscribe. Expect videos like this. There's going to be more videos where I do an edit of what I've captured and then commentary after the fact of the gear that I used, how I found it performed, and my different setups and what I like to use and the use case scenarios. But if you do like this style of content, please let me know and encourage me to keep doing it. And I'll do more videos on my other systems, my ZV-E1 with this lens and my A7CR, which is an amazing photo and video hybrid camera. But I really hope that you enjoyed today's video, and just let me know what you'd like to see, and hopefully I can make those videos as well. But signing out, I'm the Shy Camera Guy. My name is Ben McKinnon, and I really hope that you tune into the next video. Have a good one, guys. Get out there and shoot.